Hello, I'm Sarah Jack and I'm a therapist in lockdown Dorset.
And I'm Annie Power, and I'm a therapist in lockdown in London. And the theme we're going with today is affairs and secrets, well, secrets such as affairs or addictions, which may have come out as a result of lockdown. We're imagining that there will be quite a number of couples where an affair or an addiction has come to light because of the sudden way in which we were obliged to stay in one place. And if this has happened to you, then it probably is a pretty devastating start to the lockdown for the partner who's had the shock of this secret coming out. When we have secrets, often there's shame. And the really painful thing there is that when we feel shame, we may not feel able to share. So people who are having that experience of suddenly discovering that their partner was having an affair, has got an addiction, they may find it difficult to speak to friends, even if they normally would. This is our last video, and we do want to have some kind of positive notes. And one of them is that many affairs can be repaired and many addictions can be stepped back from. The 12-step groups are operating really well online. So there's no reason for someone who's coming to terms with an addiction not to find help.
Yeah, it's very much linked to what you've just been saying about affairs and the horrors of them emerging during this time, particularly when two parties can't actually get space from each other, go and see their friends, kick someone out if that's their immediate reaction. This is all under one roof, and absolutely horrendous if children have to listen to all of this too. But I was thinking, as you mentioned, really, the different types of affairs, and we referred to it in one of the other videos, whereby if someone is feeling particularly shut out in their relationship, let's say someone's having an awful lot of contact with friends and feels like they're, quite popular with others, and let's say the avoidant feels quite shut out by the preoccupied having an awful lot of contact with other people, and isn't aware that they're feeling rejected deep down, isn't aware they're not really feeling part of things, but just goes and finds, in a way, a standby, someone that they can turn to that therefore means they can avoid all the rejected feelings. And as you were saying, the different types of affairs, it was making me think about the type of affair like a top-up affair. Almost there's something missing in the relationship, and someone maybe feels even justified having an affair because they're not giving me X. You so often hear someone say they don't understand me, and that this somehow entitles them to have sex elsewhere. These things can be gotten to the bottom of in couples counselling.
Yes, top-up affair is a kind of useful name, and self-medicating is another way of describing, I think, that kind of affair where the person still values their main relationship and really has no wish to leave it, but they haven't been able to find a way to talk adequately with their partner to improve things. Things have become very bleak in that relationship, and the betraying partner goes looking for their top-up, as you call it, elsewhere. Whereas some affairs, of course, are actually a way of exiting a relationship. And other affairs are very long-term, which I think tends to occur with that sort of long-term triangle occurs when people have internalized that kind of pattern from their family of origin. So if it's a very long-term affair, there are some people who they have long-term affairs, and if that ends, they have another long-term affair. They find it very difficult to do monogamy, but of course this is difficult for the other partners. The other partners may have, when I say partners, I mean both the primary relationship and the long-term other may have their own reason for putting up with that. It may suit some kind of pattern that they carry. If the affair is very long-term, then the lockdown may have kind of presented really a very difficult ultimatum for the person who's having the affair. They will almost certainly have become attached to two people, and they do find it unbearable to choose. And presumably the lockdown has forced some people to choose. And there will be quite a lot of grief around. There'll be grief for the person who hasn't been chosen will be feeling the rejection and abandonment. And the person who was having the affair, who was attached to two people, is going to be feeling pretty rubbish. And if it's the main couple relationship where the betrayed person has just found out what's going on, they're going to be in a degree of shock. Sometimes the person whose affair has come out feels relief, they feel better, but the person who's just discovered it feels at their very worst.
There's different types of betrayal, isn't there? The betrayal of the affair, but also the betrayal of maybe finding out that your partner is an alcoholic or a drug addict or secretly gambling. For example, of maybe the partner that nips off to the pub with the girls every night and maybe even at the weekends too. Maybe some drinking takes place in the evenings, but it's not as obvious until a great crate of wine comes from Majestic Wines and you see all the bottles in the recycling. Suddenly they're really made aware that there's a major drinking problem. Well, I mean, you could say, well, if the family's ticking along just fine, other than obviously this is real health concerns for her or him, you could say, does it matter? Is it anyone's business but hers? But it depends on how you see the family, really.
Well, one reason why it is, I think, fair enough for it to be the business of the partner is that if somebody uses alcohol to that extent, actually alcohol may have become their primary relationship. And so their partner isn't going to be getting very much of them. They'll be getting the dregs. Because I think we have addictions, whether it is gambling, alcohol, porn. We have addictions because they meet an attachment need. They soothe us. And they all have some degree of reliability. That's why we go back to them. They, in almost every case, well, I think in every case, it doesn't last. It's a temporary relief, and it's followed by shame. So for the alcoholic, the sex addict, the gambler, the hit they have a hit. There's a period, a very short period of relief, and then there's shame, and then there's the need to get another fix. I suppose, in a way, I've rushed to. I am talking about addiction, whereas you may have been talking there about alcohol dependence, and these are. There is some distinction between these, but they are related.
Have we got any more to say about that?
Well, I think an addiction that causes a lot of distress in a couple is porn. And there may have been, prior to lockdown, some knowledge that one's partner was using porn. But again, the proximity of lockdown and the loss of privacy means that the extent of it, a bit like the bottles in the recycling, the extent of it may come out more bleakly. There are quite a lot of couples where one person uses porn and the other puts a kind of brave face on it and says, that's fine, this is the modern way. But in my experience, it is a brave face, and underneath, most people find it problematic, the extensive use of porn.
Absolutely.
Most partners find it hurtful. It can be like an affair.
Well, yes, I think on the subject of betrayals, 10% of couples, between them, one of them has secret debts, and these debts can go up to £5,000 that the other is just not aware of. Could be down to shopping, overspending, gambling. It could be what is providing the alcohol, paying for the alcohol, etc. But whatever it is, there's something that the other partner hasn't found out about. And I think also, again, I think it depends on how the couple see their bank account and whether that therefore is a betrayal or whether it's just a sense of privacy. But of course, if suddenly one of them needs to take out a loan because they're, in a difficult situation with money, then in particular, this debt is going to come to the surface if that loan can't be provided for them. And I was thinking too about the fact that the avoidant in particular, values privacy so much more than the preoccupied attached, and therefore could have secrets that, well, the preoccupied would see them as secrets, but the avoidant might not see them as secrets at all. And I'm thinking even as much as, let's say, what emerged was the avoidant kept quiet the fact that he had another child in a previous relationship, maybe never seen this child, maybe doesn't keep in contact with this child, but pays maintenance towards this child. You could say that kept private doesn't affect today's relationship, but from the preoccupied finding out about it, they probably would see this as a betrayal and feel very let down and rejected hearing about it.
I think these points about money secrets coming out is really relevant at a time when people's income is cut or even completely wiped out in some cases. And I think the point you made about the debts could be £10,000, I know because you mentioned earlier, and I was shocked by it, 10% of couples have secret debts, and the average is £10,000, you said. So the high levels for some people is much, much greater than that. Shock.
Yeah.
So it's a terrible shock for the other partner to discover that they're kind of possibly legally bound in with someone with serious debt. That's going to be frightening for people.
I was thinking too about the simpler secrets that could emerge. It could be that, let's say, she or he has presented themselves as having a much more powerful job than they have. Let's say it's a he, and he's pretended he's some, big cheese in a company, but actually he's, a low-level manager. And maybe when he's working from home, she gets to find out that actually he is a much lower level manager. And, all the disillusionments that could come about as a result of this lockdown, whereby, okay, it's not great to distort the truth in that way, but hey, if it keeps the couple together and, maybe she likes the illusion of him being a big cheese and he likes that image and they like that image presented to their friends, maybe it keeps their insecurities at bay together. That's
an interesting one. When you mentioned friends there, I think that, although it's not on our theme of secrets, I think it's an interesting thing how couples experience themselves in relation to their friends and how they're going to feel they've come through the lockdown in relation to their friends. And there may be quite a lot of anxiety about, are we doing as well as our friends? So we've come to the end of this episode, and we've come to the end of the whole series. And we thank you very much for listening. I'm going to say a final word about that pursuer-withdrawer dynamic, which we've come back to. And this is a thought that withdrawers sometimes get so used to their preoccupied partners talking at great length and perhaps making demands and reproaches that they develop a habit of filtering out half of what's being said, which is very thwarting, of course, for the other partner. But a word of caution to withdrawers is, don't wake up too late. Because what often happens in these relationships is that eventually the pursuing partner gets fed up of trying to get the attention of their partner and of getting help with repairing the relationship, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to mend something that's broken. And what typically happens is eventually the pursuing partner is fed up and they find somewhere else to invest. And it might be an affair, or it might be just a friend that they talk to. But once they've stepped back, that's usually when the withdrawing partner wakes up and steps in and says, perhaps we do need to talk. The pursuing partner has been saying that for 10 or more years. But when the avoidant partner steps in and says, I think you're right, we do need to talk, it may actually be too late by then. The pursuing partner is halfway out of the door. And the avoidant one has only stepped forward because a gap has been created. So to avoidant people, don't leave it too late. And to pursuing people, maybe there's going to be a gentler way that you can express your needs. And if you can find that, it could make a big difference.
Really good points, Annie. And my final word would be that you might find it confusing having listened to these videos, wondering whether you're avoidant or whether you're preoccupied, whether you're a dismissive, devaluing, fearful avoidant, or whether you're a clingy, helpless, protesting, preoccupied. But I would just take the aspects of these videos that speak to you and can help you in your relationships have more understanding. And also that, if you find that your partner maybe isn't understanding enough, doesn't listen well enough, isn't kind enough, caring enough, supportive enough, helpful enough, maybe you feel that they're just not really very interesting or don't talk enough or they're too talkative, whatever you find in your partnership that really feels like it's a deal breaker, there's a very good chance it's overcomeable. And I would say that it's about grieving the wished for, really grieving the wished for partnership that you wished you had, and you can get to the other side. And I think during this lockdown is a particular time to be patient, maybe a time to get to know your partner better, even if it's in the tricky stage. That's all from me.
That's a really positive place to end. Thank you for listening.